Hey, what's goody, Frye gang? Now, this is going to be a little bit more of a different what's the deal with video. I wasn't even expecting the next one to be this soon, but I got something to rant about, okay? Maybe even two things. But to start, the obsession with having male idols, I don't really understand that. Now, yes, don't get me wrong, having male idols would be nice since the overwhelming majority, all of them but one, are female, which I don't have an issue with, but I guess I can understand and see why people would want a change from that. But first off, I mean, we already got a male idol in Big Man and people hated him. Okay, now to be fair, I'm pretty sure it's because he's not an Inkling or Octoling. People wanted an Inkling or Octoling male idol and not just a fucking manta ray, which, I mean, I guess I can understand, but crying that, oh, there's no male idols and no male idols, and then we get Big Man, a male idol people have been asking for, and he wasn't really received too well. Now, one thing, I'm gonna go like full psychologist mode here. One reason why people want a male idol so badly is because if you haven't been able to tell, the whole like idol thing in Splatoon is based off of Japanese culture and just culture in Asia in general, because idol groups are very popular over there in the East, and the majority of them are female. Now, don't get me wrong, male idols are not rare by any means. There are plenty and plenty of male idols in idol groups in the Asian countries like Japan, Korea, China. Idol groups seem to be very popular over there. The overwhelming majority of them are female. Okay, young, attractive females. And obviously Splatoon mirrors that with all of its idol groups being strictly female minus Big Man. And I guess what reason why people want or feel the need to have more male idols is because, unlike over there in the East, here in the West and like the US, just America in general, the majority of like artists and music groups are predominantly male. Now, there are a lot of very popular female artists and groups, but if you think about just the history of music, at least here in the West, a lot of the big names and the most memorable ones, like bands or solo artists, are males. So I guess that kind of plays into it. People are used to having like male musicians, so not really having any in Splatoon would be kind of weird to them, since, you know, most people here in the West aren't exposed to Eastern culture. So like having predominantly young female idols in Splatoon would feel weird to some people, or they're just not used to it, so they'd want to kind of throw in some males in there to have some equality with that. And I guess a case could be made about like the whole idol industry in the East in general could just be appealing to the male fantasy or whatever. I'm not getting into all of that shit because, first, I'm not even really knowledgeable enough to go into that. Second, I really kind of just don't care. All right, I really just don't care. But I don't, the obsession with male idols, like, I understand wanting male idols in Splatoon. It would be nice, okay? It would be nice, but the lengths people go to and like how upset people get about there not being male idols and just how much they freak out about it is weird to me. And just Splatoon in general is just predominantly female. Most of the major characters are female, which I don't have an issue with at all, and I'm sure most people don't. Even though the majority are female, there are still plenty of male characters, so people wanting male idols, I don't really think it's to have more male representation in the series as a whole, since there is already enough of that. There's a lot of male characters. There's Sheldon, there's Jalonzo, Gelfonzo, there's Bisque, Krusty Sean, Mr. Grizz, both Judd and Lil Judd, DJ Octavio. Like, there are plenty of male characters in the series, but I guess just for idols themselves, since they are like the most prominent groups and like major characters, I don't know. I don't really see what the big deal about male idols are. Yeah, sure, it would be nice, but it's really not that deep to where you have to throw a fit about it. All right, Big Man's not that bad. Okay, I understand he's not an inkling or octoling, but does he really need to be in order to be accepted as a male idol? And I understand he was kind of created to be a background character and just be there in the background, but I don't think people realize just how significant Big Man is, at least to Deep Cut themselves, because he's the one who produces all of their music. Without Big Man, Deep Cut would probably not be an idol group. Okay, I know people love to say that Big Man, he just doesn't do anything because he doesn't sing, and I really hope people realize there's more to music than just singing. Okay, there's a lot more to music than just singing. Okay, and these people's eyes, as long as you sing, you're great, they're good, but you need someone to produce the music, okay, market the music, create beats, and all this other stuff. Just singing isn't really enough. That's just like acting in like movies. There's more to movies than just the actors. You gotta have a sound department, a lighting department, directors, producers, all of that. It's more than just actors. So just because Big Man doesn't sing doesn't really mean that he's not important, and that's just not true anyway. Liquid Sunshine, he was featured on that. He literally has his own entire song with the Anarchy Rainbow. Okay, like Big Man doesn't just do nothing. He does sing, and even if he didn't, he produces all of their music. So Deep Cut kind of needs Big Man. And this is going into the second thing that I want to rant about is Big Man. He's a manta ray and not an inkling or octoling. And this isn't a lot of people I'm hearing say this. It's very prevalent in my Discord server and other places, but it's not like a major issue. But what is with the obsession and wanting a new playable species? I don't understand that at all. Okay, and it kind of pisses me off because people are just so annoying about that shit. From the people that I've heard it from, they are very annoying about it. Okay, we got a new species. We got a new species. I don't know new, but with at least like representative species with Big Man. Okay, he's a manta ray. He's not an inkling or octoling, which is different from what we've had before, and people seem to not care about that. And the thing that doesn't make sense to me is that what is a new playable species really even going to do? All right, and I've been seeing a lot of people saying, oh, cuttlefish could be the next playable series or playable species. We have inklings, octolings, and cuttlefish. And first of all, cuttlefish aren't really that different from inklings to even warrant having a whole new species about. All right, and the reason why cuttlefish is the most important and prevalent one about being a new species is because apparently there's some lore about cuttlefish in Haikata Walker. There's a page that talks about an idol group from whenever, and apparently these two like members were cuttlefish, and people kind of use that as proof, like, oh, cuttlefish exists, so therefore they have to be another playable series. Make cuttlefish playable. Or in Hagglefish Market, there are some plushes in the stand which look to be plushes of cuttlefish, and they're like cuttlefish form, squid form cuttlefish, because the frills and everything are different. So cuttlefish definitely exist in the world of Splatoon, but that doesn't mean they need to be playable just because there was an idol group of them way back then, or some plushies of them. Yeah, they exist, but they don't need to be playable. And even if we had another playable species, that being the cuttlefish, that wouldn't really fix any of the issues that people already have with inklings or octolings. The main issue is customization, and yes, having a whole new species would give a lot more customization, but not as much as you think. We'd get like 6 new hairstyles for the cuttlefish, and then that's it. and none of the problems with the customization people have would even be fixed. That would just be creating a bigger issue, adding more to the issue that there already is. So there's a new species, but even less customization spread out between all of them. Like giving us, I understand wanting more customization, which I don't object. I would love some more customization, but adding a whole new species isn't the type of customization we need. If anything, let us have the ability to color the fingertips and hair tips of our Inklings or Octolings, like in Side Order, or like in the concept art for Splatoon 3, in the art of Splatoon 3, I made a video on it. One of the Inklings had tattoos. Give us an option to have tattoos or piercings, facial hair, freckles, stuff like that. There's so many different types of like new customization options they can give us rather than just adding a whole new species. That's not really going to solve anything. And if they did that, then they would have to build lore and somehow fit the cuttlefish, or the Cuttlings as they're calling it. That pisses me off so much. That word really pisses me off. Cuttlings, that sounds so fucking dumb. But if we were to add Cuttlings into the mix, they would have to somehow fit them into the story of Splatoon 4 if they were added in Splatoon 4, to fit them into the story of Splatoon 4 as well as the lore of Splatoon. And the lore of Splatoon has been pretty established by now across 3 games. Adding a whole new species to that, they would kind of have to retcon a whole lot of stuff that's already been cemented. And mind you, retcons aren't inherently negative or bad, but they would have to change a whole lot in order to make Cuttlefish kind of make sense in the lore of Splatoon, since they didn't just show up out of nowhere. There's already kind of a little bit of lore about them with the 2 idols and then the plushes, so there's a little bit there already, just enough to like show that hey, they exist, but not enough for them to really make a significant impact. But they would have to make a lot of changes to the lore and just introduce an entire new species into the story and lore, and that would just get very messy and convoluted. They probably wouldn't have a lot of time or room to implement them, so that'd just be very messy and confusing. So I don't really see how that would work. And like I said earlier, Cuttlefish wouldn't be too different from Inklings already. Squids and Cuttlefish in real life are already very similar. Okay, so what's the difference going to be between Cuttlings? What, the eye shape, I guess, and the hair shape? That's about it. Like I said, we're only going to get like a couple of new hairstyles, and then that's it. Maybe they'll have like a different kind of mask, but that's really about it. There's really no reason to have a new playable species. Not every game needs to have some new revolutionary thing in it every single time. Okay, that's just not feasible. And the reason Octolings were even added to the game, and those, see, I feel like because we got a new species with the Octolings, people are now expecting another new species because we already got one. So saying like, oh, we already got one, why would they stop there? Why not keep on adding? Like, not everything needs to be built upon. Stuff can already be there and just be cemented as it is. Not everything always needs to be built upon all the time. We don't have to have constant progress on everything all the time. Sometimes it's better to just let things be as they are. This being one of them. And the reason Octolings were even introduced as a playable species in general is because they're already there in a big part of the lore since day one. They're already there and implemented in the lore and story since day one. Okay, about like the Octarians, Inklings versus the Octarians, the whole Great Turf War and all of that. That was already established. And then Octo expansion cemented Inklings into the game itself, with Agent 8 making it out of the Deep Sea Metro and into the Promised Land, aka Inkopolis. So now there's an Octoling in Inkopolis being Agent 8. So the other Octolings started to migrate to Inkopolis, and now Inklings and Octolings live synonymously. Come Splatoon 3, where Inklings and Octolings both live in harmony in Splatsville. So then Octolings are already there in a big part of it, so now they're playable. So I mean, that makes sense. Cuttlings, I fucking hate that word. Cuttlefish, having playable Cuttlefish, where the hell did they come from? All right, there's like nothing about them in like sunken scrolls or the alternate logs, the stories, none of that. There's absolutely zero of anything about them there. The only thing we have is an outside source of media, being the Hakata Walker Octo expansion art book. So I guess they were at least considered there, and that's the thing too. They were in the art book, which means they're most likely scrapped content. Maybe they had an idea that they wanted to do with Cuttlefish and Cuttlings, but later scrapped it because they thought it was unnecessary or too hard to implement and didn't have any ideas or whatever. So just because they're there in the lore or in the art book doesn't necessarily mean they will eventually show up in a game. That could have just been a scrapped idea that they had and then decided that it's unnecessary, so they're just not going to do anything with it. Not every piece of concept needs to be fulfilled and to come to fruition, so it's fine. So I think people are really reaching with this whole thing so badly, wanting a new playable species when we just don't need that. And male idols, yes, that would be cool to have, but again, that's not really necessary, and it makes sense that most of them are female given how heavily inspired by Japan and Japanese culture Splatoon is. So it just makes sense. And then we got a male idol and people didn't care about him just because he's not an Inkling or Octoling. That doesn't really make any sense to me. All right, Big Man, I think he's pretty cool. All right, a big ass manta ray that just says "A" and makes music. That's kind of cool, I guess. But I don't know, the obsession with having male idols and a new playable species just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. I'm sorry, but I've been waiting to rant about this shit for the longest time, especially this stupid ass Cuttlefish shit. I've been needing to rant about that for the longest time. Hopefully y'all like can see what I'm trying to say and understand what I mean by all of this, but I just really don't see what the big fuss is about, especially about a new playable species in Splatoon. Male idols, sure, y'all can have that, that's fine, I don't really care. But a new species, come on, now y'all are just asking for too much, because this is the exact same thing that happened with Smash, bro. They give us, like Sakurai gave us all of these characters, okay? Come Smash Ultimate, he gave us all of these characters, 70, 80 something characters. That is a lot of fucking characters for a fighting game, all across many different franchises and series and games and all of that. And he put in characters we've been asking for, people have been asking for since Melee, okay? All these characters from across everywhere got in, and people were still complaining that, oh, why didn't this character make it in over this one? It's not, bro, you can't have every single character ever created in gaming make it into the game, okay? Just because you ask for it doesn't mean you're going to get it. That's not how it works. Do you not know how much work Sakurai already put in just to have Smash Ultimate the way it is? All right, we already have all of these characters and people are still mad that certain characters didn't get in. Obviously, some characters are gonna be left out. Like, people will get their expectations too high and expect too much and then get mad when they aren't met. So they're constantly disappointed, and there's this like constant vendetta against the series because they don't have this in the game or that in the game. People expect way too much, and then they're just never satisfied. That's kind of what I feel like is happening here with this whole like Cuttlefish thing and new species. We don't need that. Just because you want it doesn't mean we need it or it has to happen. I don't understand. Maybe I'm just wrong. I highly doubt it, but all this shit makes sense to me. Hopefully it does to you, but I just really needed to rant about this. I've been waiting way too long to say something about this stupid Cuttlefish shit. So I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I had to say this, and that's how I feel. Male idols, sure, we can have more of those. I really don't care. I prefer the female idols. I wouldn't mind if we got male idols. It really doesn't affect me either way if we got male or female. But as for the new species, especially the Cuttlefish, shut the hell up about that shit. It's not happening. It doesn't need to happen. It's just stupid in general. But yeah, that's really about it. See you next mission and play some goddamn Splatty.